The deep canyons and towering peaks of my homeworld, Viridian, house the ancient stone cities of my people. For generations, we Lithians have carved our dwellings into the living rock, creating vast networks of chambers and passages that wind through the mountains like the veins of some great stone beast. We are a patient people, methodical craftsmen who measure time in the slow erosion of stone. I, Mulith, was considered strange among my kind for my restlessness. While others found comfort in the unchanging embrace of our mountain homes, I yearned for something different. Something unpredictable. That's how I found myself aboard the Stellar Drift, a modestly sized human cargo vessel captained by Todd Winters, a human with eyes the color of Viridian skystone and a laugh that echoed like sound in our resonance chambers. I had met Todd 3 cycles ago during a trading expedition to my homeworld, where he had come seeking Lithian stone crystal conductors for his ship's engine modifications. Unlike other species who dealt with us, Todd had shown genuine interest in our craft, spending hours watching master carvers work. When he prepared to leave, I made an impulsive decision that shocked my clan elders. I asked to join his crew. "Space is dangerous," he had warned me. "Not like your mountains." "Mountains collapse too," I had replied. "At least the stars offer new views." For 3 years, I served as the ship's structural engineer, my people's innate understanding of pressure and support systems proving valuable in maintaining the Stellar Drift's aging hull. But more than that, I observed humans, especially Todd, with growing fascination. They were creatures of contradiction, building with careful precision one moment, exploding into action the next. Nothing illustrated this more clearly than what happened with the Craxus data core. The Stellar Drift had just completed a routine delivery to the Earth colony on Io when Todd received the transmission. We were in the mess hall, Todd showing me how to play a human game called poker that seemed to involve deliberate deception as a form of entertainment. The communication console chimed and the scaled face of a Unifist appeared on screen. I recognized him immediately as Dravix, a notorious middleman known for dealing in questionable merchandise across the Jupiter quadrant. "Captain Winters," the Unifist rasped, his throat sac pulsing with false joviality. "I've been trying to reach you." Todd's expression didn't change, but I noticed his fingers tighten almost imperceptibly around his playing cards. "Dravix. Didn't expect to hear from you after our last encounter." The Unifist's scales rippled in what I had come to recognize as dismissive amusement. "Ancient history, Captain. Business. What do you want?" Todd's voice had taken on a quality I rarely heard. Flat, emotionless, like the still air deep within our mountain caverns before a collapse. "That special cargo you transported for the Craxus Corporation last month. The prototype navigation core." Dravix leaned closer to the screen. "I happen to know it never reached its destination." My 4-chambered heart stuttered. The Craxus job had been our biggest contract yet, transporting an experimental quantum navigation core that could plot safe passages through the notoriously dangerous SETI Nebula. The technology could save thousands of lives each year lost to nebula storms. "The core was delivered as contracted," Todd replied, setting down his cards. "I have confirmation codes and payment receipts." Dravix's lipless mouth stretched in what passed for a smile among his kind. "Let's not play games, Winters. The core that was delivered was a sophisticated fake, convincing enough to pass initial inspection, but ultimately useless." His throat sac pulsed with excitement. "What I want to know is how much you're asking for the real one." Todd stood slowly, his movements deliberate. "You're saying someone stole the core and replaced it with a fake. I'm saying you have the opportunity to make significantly more than whatever the Craxus Corporation paid you," Dravix countered. "I have buyers willing to pay 20 times your fee. And what makes you think I have it?" Todd's voice was dangerously quiet now. Dravix flicked his forked tongue, a gesture of confidence. "Because I know who switched it. My associate on your crew, your navigator, Ren, made the exchange while you were docked at Ganymede Station. He's already delivered the prototype's outer casing to prove authenticity." My stone-like skin grew cold. Wren had left the crew suddenly 3 days ago, claiming a family emergency. "I'm offering you a cut, Winters," Dravex continued. "Wren gets his share, you get yours, everyone profits. Otherwise, certain authorities might receive evidence suggesting you were behind the theft all along." Todd was silent for 27 seconds. I counted each one, recognizing the dangerous stillness that had overcome him. When he finally spoke, his voice was soft, almost gentle. "Congrats, Dravex, you just killed yourself." The Anifist's scales flared in confusion. "Is that supposed to scare me, human?" Todd terminated the connection without another word. Then he turned to the ship's intercom. "All hands, change of plans. We're setting course for Adullam Station." He glanced at me. "Muleth, check our hull integrity. We might be pushing the engines past recommended limits." "Todd," I ventured, "if the navigation core was truly stolen—" "It was." He was already moving toward the weapons locker I hadn't realized was built into the mess hall wall. "And we're going to get it back. Should we not alert the Craxus Corporation or the Transit Authority?" Todd removed what I recognized as a modified pulse rifle, checking its charge with practiced efficiency. "By the time they investigate, that core will be in the hands of pirates who'll use it to ambush ships in the nebula, ships carrying families, colonists." He secured the weapon to his back. "Some things you handle yourself." I should have retreated to my quarters. I should have reminded him of the 16 different interstellar regulations this course of action would violate. Instead, I found myself saying, "I'll prepare the hull for high-velocity travel." Adullam Station was everything my homeworld was not. A chaotic, improvised structure continually modified by its inhabitants with little regard for aesthetic harmony or structural integrity. It hung in the shadow of a nameless asteroid at the fringes of the Jupiter system, where official jurisdiction grew thin and malleable. Todd docked the stellar drift at an automated port, bypassing the station's registration protocols with an override code I didn't know he possessed. "You've been here before," I observed as we disembarked, my stone-textured skin instantly drawing curious glances from the station's eclectic inhabitants. "Past life," Todd replied cryptically. "Stay close. Your species isn't common here, and uncommon things draw attention." We navigated through crowded corridors where the air hung heavy with the mingled breath of a dozen species. Todd moved with purpose, his stride confident, even as his eyes constantly scanned our surroundings. "How will we find Dravex?" I asked, keeping my voice low. "This station has over 12,000 inhabitants." "Dravex has expensive tastes," Todd replied. "He likes a human drink called cognac. Real cognac from Earth. There are only 2 establishments on this station that import it. We found nothing at the first establishment, a polished venue called the Executive Airlock that catered to wealthy traders. The second, the Broken Seal, was nestled deep in the station's industrial sector, where the recycled air carried metallic undertones and the lighting flickered with the station's power fluctuations. Todd paused outside, adjusting his jacket to better conceal his weapon. "Muleth, you should wait here." "If I wanted safety, I would have stayed in my mountain," I replied, surprising myself with my conviction. "Besides, Lithian skin is resistant to most small arms fire. I'm probably safer than you are." A ghost of a smile touched Todd's lips. "Just stay behind me and look intimidating." Inside, the Broken Seal lived up to its name. The air retention field at the entrance sputtered, creating a constant low hiss. The patrons were a rough assortment of species, many bearing the distinctive implants and modifications of those who spent their lives in the vacuum of Todd spotted him first. Dravex, seated at a private booth with 2 hulking Eleuthian guards flanking him. The Anifist was pouring amber liquid from an ornate bottle, his scaled fingers handling the delicate glass with surprising dexterity. "Wait for my signal," Todd murmured, then approached the bar. What happened next occurred with such fluid efficiency that I almost missed it. Todd ordered 2 drinks, then deliberately stumbled as he turned, sending both glasses crashing into the nearest Eleuthian's chest plate. The guard's compound eyes flashed with anger as it rose to its full 3-meter height, mandibles clicking in threat display. Todd's posture shifted subtly, a coiled tension that reminded me of the predatory cave serpents of Viridian's lower depths. The Eleuthian struck first, a sweeping blow that should have removed Todd's head from his shoulders, but Todd was no longer there. He had dropped and rolled, coming up with a small device pressed against the joint between the Eleuthian's thorax and abdomen, their neural cluster point. A soft pulse, and the massive guard collapsed like unstable rockwork. Before the second guard could react, Todd had vaulted over the fallen Eleuthian and repeated the maneuver. The entire encounter had taken less than 8 seconds. The bar went silent, patrons suddenly finding intense interest in their drinks or the ceiling. Dravix sat frozen, his throat sac deflated in shock. "Hello, Dravix," Todd said, sliding into the booth across from the Unifist. "Pour me a drink. That's genuine cognac, I stationed myself at the edge of the booth, trying to project the impassive strength my people were known for, while carefully monitoring the rest of the establishment for potential threats. "Winters," Dravix hissed, his earlier bravado evaporated. "This is unexpected." "Is it?" Todd asked, his voice conversational as he examined the bottle. "I told you exactly what would happen." "My associates won't take kindly to this intrusion," Dravix warned, eyes darting toward the exit. "Your associates are currently unconscious, and I've jammed communications in this sector of the station." Todd replied calmly, "It's just us, having a friendly drink and discussing stolen property." Dravix's scales rippled with agitation. "I don't have your precious core. Ren delivered the casing but was holding the actual device for higher payment." "Where is he?" Todd asked, pouring himself a measure of the cognac. "Dead," Dravix answered, perhaps too quickly. "Oxygen recycler malfunction in his quarters, very unfortunate." Todd sipped the amber liquid, his expression unreadable. "That's funny, because according to station records, Ren booked passage off Adalem 12 hours ago." Dravix's scales flattened against his skull, a sign of alarm among Unifists. "You've been misinformed." In one smooth motion, Todd drew his pulse rifle and rested it on the table, its muzzle pointed at Dravix's chest. "The core. Now." "You wouldn't fire that in here," Dravix said, though his voice lacked conviction. Station security is currently dealing with a reported toxic leak 3 sections over," Todd interrupted. "Another unfortunate accident. The core, Dravix, final warning." I watched in fascination as Dravix seemed to calculate his options, his reptilian brain working through scenarios before finally deflating in defeat. "Storage locker 3377, Section D," he muttered. "Biometric lock keyed to my scale pattern." Todd smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Let's take a walk." The storage section was deserted, emergency lighting casting long shadows across numbered locker doors. Dravix led us to 3377, pressing his scaled palm against the sensor pad. The door hissed open, revealing a small safe. "Open it," Todd ordered, rifle still trained on the Unifist. Inside the safe lay a device the size of my fist, a gleaming cylinder of alloys and crystal matrices that pulsed with a soft blue light. "The Craxus core," Todd confirmed, examining it without touching. "Looks undamaged." "You have what you want," Dravix said, a note of desperation entering his voice. "We can part ways now, yes? No harm done." Todd carefully secured the core in a shielded container from his pack. Then he turned to the Unifis with that same calm expression that had preceded the violence at the bar. "No harm?" he repeated quietly. "You compromised my crew. You threatened to frame me for theft. You attempted to sell technology that would have led to deaths of innocent travelers." He raised the rifle. "Give me one reason I shouldn't end you right now." Dravix's throat sac pulsed rapidly in panic. "The authorities. Won't miss another criminal on a station full of them," Todd finished for him. I stepped forward then, placing a stony hand on Todd's shoulder. "Todd, we have recovered the core. Justice is served." For a moment I wasn't certain he had heard me. Then he lowered the weapon slightly. "You're right, Mulith. Justice is served." He glanced at Dravix, "but consequences still apply." The pulse rifle discharged with a sound like distant thunder, the beam striking not Dravix but the control panel behind him. The storage section's alert system activated immediately, sirens wailing as secure doors began to seal. "That alert will bring station security," Todd explained, already moving toward the exit. "They'll find an unauthorized individual in a restricted storage area attempting to access a high-security safe that doesn't belong to him." Dravik's eyes widened in understanding. "They'll arrest me." "At minimum," Todd agreed. "And when they search your quarters and find the evidence I planted implicating you in Wren's disappearance—" "You can't leave me here!" Dravik hissed, lunging forward. Todd sidestepped smoothly. "Can't say I didn't warn you," he said, his voice entirely devoid of emotion. We slipped through the closing doors just as the security shutters sealed behind us, trapping Dravik's inside with the blaring alarms. I heard him howling curses in his native tongue as we made our way back to the docking bay. 3 days later, we were back in normal space, the stellar drift on course to make the delayed delivery to the Craxus Corporation. I found Todd in the observation deck staring out at the stars, the recovered navigation core sitting on the table beside him. "The Craxus Corporation will be pleased," I observed, settling my stone-dense body carefully on the reinforced chair across from him. "They should be," Todd replied, "though I'm requesting additional security protocols for future transports." I studied him for a moment, noting the familiar calm that had returned to his features. "You weren't really going to kill Dravik," I said. It wasn't a question. Todd's gaze remained fixed on the stars. "No, not unless I had to." "But you were prepared to," I pressed. "That core will save thousands of lives, Mulith," he said quietly. "Ships get lost in the SETI Nebula every month, whole families, some lines you don't let people cross." I contemplated this, running a stone-textured finger along the edge of the table. "My people believe that mountains do not move for the wind, no matter how fiercely it blows. We endure." "Sound philosophy," Todd commented. "But you humans," I continued, "you are not like mountains. You are like water, appearing gentle, yielding to obstacles, yet, given time, carving through the hardest stone." Todd finally looked at me, a genuine smile breaking through his serious demeanor. "Is that a compliment or a criticism?" "An observation," I replied, "and the reason I left my mountains. Stone endures, but water shapes the world." He chuckled, raising his cup in a human gesture of acknowledgement. "To unexpected friendships, then." As I raised my own specially designed cup, I reflected on the contradictions that made humans so fascinating to me. They built with painstaking care and destroyed with calculated precision. They extended friendship across species barriers, yet could become implacable enemies in an instant. Most intriguing of all, they did these things not from lack of control, but from a place of absolute clarity. When a human tells you calmly that you've killed yourself, it is not a threat delivered in anger. It's simply a fact they've decided to make true. And that is why I left my stone city to travel among the stars, to witness the universe shaped by creatures who refuse to merely endure it. Thank you so much for listening to this story. I hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to leave it a like and to subscribe if you'd like to see more. Feel free to comment and share it as well. With all that said, go on and check out the video in the top left. I think you might like it.